This is our last day of our midsummer retreat. Yesterday we talked quite a bit about mindfulness and some of the basics of practice. So today I'd like to really give you a taste of Zen. Who has done Big Mind with me before? Some of you have. Ken? Jigen? Yeah, okay. So this will be familiar to some of you, and those of you that haven't, it'll be new. Thank you, that's better. And Ken, sit where I can see you somehow. Yeah, just so I want to see your lovely beard and your face. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Jackie, yeah. Big Mind is upaya, and upaya just simply means skillful means, that was developed by Genpo Marcel Roshi and Dennis Marcel. And he took it from voice dialogue, which was a psychological modality developed by Hal and Sidra Stone. Hal has passed on. I think Sidra is still alive. They were both psychotherapists. Hal was a Jungian analyst, and Sidra was a clinical psychologist. And they worked, they're just wonderful, wonderful people. And they discovered this in their own work with their own patients over time. And they began to call it voice dialogue, and then they developed it. And it was, they discovered that we have different voices within us. That's just basic psychology. That doesn't mean we're crazy or we have what's the word? Yeah, we actually have constellations within us. Kind of you might also almost call them archetypal constellations that have a specific psychological, physical voice that we can sort of explore and get to know. This Big Mind is a way of sort of integrating psychology with spirituality. And whereas in voice dialogue, we are speaking to psychological parts of ourselves, in Big Mind, we're speaking to what you might call transpersonal voices. We're using that modality of voice dialogue to move it into a realm that is spiritual, where we can integrate both the psychological and the spiritual together, which is very useful. Now, a basic principle of voice dialogue, which is really important, is that every voice is honored. Every voice we have is valuable. There is not a voice we have which is not. But of course, we all have voices in us or with us that are disowned to some degree as well. But the basic principle is all voices are acknowledged and honored in this work. And just to take that a little step further, what my teacher, Nikley Jikyo McMahon, developed was a way of simply, when you have a strong emotion, let's say anger, you could ask yourself, and Nikley is also a therapist, a very good one. You could ask yourself, what is the anger wanting? And when you ask yourself that question, what your anger is wanting is going to be something that is always good for you, not bad. Something that is going to be good for you, and it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. That's a very skillful way of looking at your emotion, because and I'm using anger very intentionally, because anger is one of the strongest emotions we have that is almost always a projection, right? It's a projection onto somebody else. You hang that projection onto somebody else, and then you want to blame them, hurt them, what? That's how we project. So why this is skillful is that when you're in the midst of anger, and you ask, and you're able to be mindful enough to ask yourself, what is my anger wanting? And what my anger is wanting is something that's good for me. That's withdrawing the projection, you see. That's kind of taking the projection back. I'm not projecting the anger. My anger isn't about the person I'm angry at. I think I'm angry at. My anger is about something that I am needing, wanting, that is good for me. Maybe I'm wanting safety. Maybe I'm wanting harmony. That doesn't have to do with the other person. And that's very skillful, you see, because we almost always are projecting, especially with anger. So that comes out of voice dialogue, that sensibility that every voice, every emotion is a positive one if we know how to work with it. Okay? Any questions about that so far? I actually think that's a very, very useful practice for any of us at any time when we have an emotion and we have a conflict with someone else. It doesn't mean you don't have a conflict with them, but you can get a lot clearer and more proactive if you know what you need. And what you need doesn't have to do with the other person. That's a basic principle of nonviolent communication. Yeah, Blair.
I was going to bring up Marshall Rosenberg.
Yeah.
The unmet need of us.
Yes, the need is already always autonomous to us, but that way of framing it in nonviolent communication is often difficult for people to get at what the need is. So if you ask yourself, what is emotion wanting, it's really immediate and kind of guttural. And I think it's more direct in a way. So, yeah.
One question, one need is respect.
It might be.
And if you
Yeah.
feel someone has not, respected you,
Uh-huh.
and you get angry,
Yeah.
and so
The way to say this in NVC speak would be they're a stimulus that is causing you to feel angry because you have a need for respect that's not being met. The way we would usually frame that a little less skillfully is, I need you to respect me. But it's more that I have a need for respect that's not being met in this situation with this person. And but you notice how that's much more proactive. I'm still coming from my own direct experience and speaking from that. That's much more skillful.
So when the anger arises,
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's all right. Oh yeah, sorry.
So when the anger arises, you were talking about that you're talking about what does the anger need?
I wouldn't use the word need. I think it's a little bit too heady or something. I think it's more direct to say, what's the anger wanting? It's just
Wanting.
really immediate and visceral.
Wanting.
It's a kind of visceral thing in the body. What's my anger wanting?
So if it is respect,
That's what it's wanting. It's wanting
it's wanting respect.
And that's a
And-
positive thing.
And that's a positive thing. But it's obvious you can't get it from that person you're angry at.
Well, it depends how I deal with now. At least I know what it is that I'm needing, and now I could make a request of that person that doesn't blame them, which is much more skillful. Doesn't blame me, doesn't blame them, but is making a request. Would they be willing to behave in a certain way or speak to me in a certain way that would meet my need for being respected? But
So,
the key here is you're never projecting onto the other person or blaming them, because who likes to be blamed? Once we're blamed, we get defensive and reactive. So it's very skillful. If I'm with somebody that's behaving in a way that is causing me to feel angry, because I have a need for respect that's not being met with this situation with this person, the way I'm going to speak to them from that place is much more proactive. Instead of blaming them, kind of owning the fact that I am choosing to get angry because I have a need that's not being met. And now I can make a request for that person and say, would you be willing to speak in a different tone of voice so that, to meet my need for respect. So you're not blaming them, and it makes it much more likely that they will meet your request, and then your need for respect will get met, which is what you're actually wanting. What you're actually wanting is respect.
so when you ask the question, what is my emotion wanting?
Yeah.
It's just another way of getting at what you're
Need is-
needing.
Yes, but I've spoken to Nicolai about this quite a bit, and she doesn't use the word need here because she thinks this is a more kind of direct, kind of embodied. People have trouble with needs.
Yeah.
I've been teaching NBC for a long time, and that the most difficult thing about this upaya is you ask people about needs. We have lots of negative conditioning around needs, need awareness. So I think it gets past that block when you just say, what is my emotion wanting? And it's always something positive for me. Then you get past that kind of, needs are difficult. The word need brings up all kinds of conditioning that people have that's not positive. People don't think of needs as positive. In our culture, we generally don't honor needs. We have a lot of negative associations with being needy. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to run out of time. So I just wanted to kind of introduce this because we're going to do a big mind facilitation, which is going to take our whole time, and we have less time today than yesterday because we're on the regular schedule now. Right? So. Let me say something about then voice dialogue, how this works, just so we're not going to do it. But if we were doing voice dialogue modality, we would have 3 chairs here, and the therapist would be here, and I'm the client, and there's a chair here and a chair here. And here I am in the seat of the self. I forget what they actually call it in voice dialogue, but this is my primary self. And I'm Bob, I have a name, and I can speak to the therapist, I can speak to you all. Hello, how are you doing? And now the therapist says, Bob, go sit in this seat, and I want to speak to the pusher. Okay, I have to move out of this seat into this seat, and then the therapist is going to ask me, who am I speaking to? Because she wants to make sure that she's speaking to that voice and not me here. So here, she says, who am I speaking to? And I say, the pusher. Yeah. Okay, now she's going to ask me a whole lot of questions about the pusher. Who are you? What's your job? What do you do? What's your job description? What's it feel like in your body? What's it energetically like? What do you do for Bob? And I say, I do a lot of good things for him. I get things done. I'm ambitious. Anything gets in the way, I just push it away. I just push through, I'm an alpha male. I just like, right? The fist, I'm I'm macho man, and I'm really into it.
On the grate, I'm sorry.
What?
Your chair's on the grate over there.
Oh,
Would
and
you-
being a macho man, I'm gonna break the.
Yeah, right, so just come
the
look,
thing
thank
here.
you. Okay.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, I was enjoying that for a moment.
Sorry about that.
The therapist was like, good. Hey, you're really getting into it, right? Yeah. Now, so she asked me to come back here now and sit in this chair as Bob again. She said, how was that? I said, gee, I really like that. Can I do that again? I'm going to do that. I don't let the pusher out all the time. So she said, no, we're going to now go over here, and I want to talk to the opposite from the pusher. Who would that be? Huh? The what?
The pushover.
The pushover. Yeah, the pushover, the passive pushover. How about the slacker? Okay, let's say slacker. He says, okay, now I want to talk to the slacker. I'm sitting here now, right? And the therapist says, okay, I want to talk to the slacker. The what? The slacker. What? The slacker? No. No slacker here. I got nothing. You know? She said, so she encourages me, said, look, just try it out. Just humor me. Just see if you can find a little slacker energy. It doesn't mean you're going to lose the pusher, who you apparently are very fond of. And so, I say, okay, slacker. Well, okay, I guess I could smoke some marijuana and I could probably get into it, or drink some alcohol or something, okay, so we work on that. This is the therapy, right? And finally I kind of get into the slacker. I think, yeah, okay, I'm the slacker, and I'm kind of, what's it like in your body? I'm kind of laid back, it's pretty good. I'm late for the schedules at the Zen Center. I miss meetings, I'm spaced out, I go walking and I forget where I am. And, it's pretty good actually. I kind of like being the slacker. Actually feels a lot more relaxed than the pusher. So, and then I come back into this chair, and then she says, how was that? I said, well, actually it was surprisingly relaxing. So here's the thing. This is basic psychology. We almost always identify with one side or the other. And if we're well balanced and mature emotionally, we would have access to both. That's the point. Now, and I'm doing this to make a point, I am not 99% identified with my pusher, but I have a healthy slacker actually. But, so the therapist says, look, if I'm 99% identified with the pusher, there's no energy over here. And when she tries to talk to this voice, it's disowned in me. And I'm going to have judgments about slackers. They're irresponsible. They're hippies. They smoke too much marijuana. They're lazy, no good. They're welfare queens. I'm going to have all kinds of nasty things to say about slackers because it's disowned. So what we're doing in the therapy is she's getting me to own that a little bit. And then what we're speaking about psychological health or well-being is for me to be able to sit in this chair and choose which one I want to have in any circumstance. If I'm going to work, I might want to choose the pusher. Got to drive on the freeway downtown to Chicago. I could probably need the pusher driving in Chicago. That's probably going to be safe too. The slacker might be unsafe. So I use the pusher. I get to work, I have things to do, I have deadlines. Pusher works for me. I'm going on a vacation to Tahiti. I'm going to be on a beautiful beach. Do I want to bring the pusher? I might bring the pusher to get to the airport. But once you've gotten through the checkout thing, you don't need the pusher anymore. You want the slacker. You're going to grab if you're healthy, you're going to say, I'm going to take the slacker now. And when you're on the beach, you're not going to bring out your laptop and be doing this on your spreadsheets and doing numbers and, you don't want to do that. You want to have a Mai Tai, and so that's psychological well-being. And you notice that both voices are valid. And it's just basic psychology. We all have disowned voices. We all have disowned energies. And to the degree that our voices are disowned, we are a little less authentic, a little less vital, a little less whole. We're immature psychologically in that way. So that's voice dialogue, and that took a while to introduce, but that's where we're coming from when we do Big Mind. But now, with Big Mind, we're going to use transpersonal voices. And so I'm not going to say too much about it. I'm going to actually do it with you. And there's no right or wrong thing to say here. This is not a test. This is a way to just have fun and discover something about Zen that I could give you a talk on the Heart Sutra and it would be all intellectual, but this is experiential. And I think it's a really important upaya for our time as a way to get at what Zen is actually about experientially. Okay? So when I ask to speak to a voice, I want you to just shift in your chair a little bit to remind yourself that you're shifting from June to that voice, Ken to that. You're just shifting a little bit to just remind yourself you're moving out of your whole, your regular self to that self I'm asking to talk to. And then just humor me. And we're going to explore what that voice is for you, okay? Okay, so I want you to just shift your chair slightly. And I want to speak to the one who seeks the way. So just sit with us for a moment. The one who seeks the way. Who am I speaking to? Well, tell me about yourself. What do you do? What's? Hmm?
Curious.
What?
Curious.
You're serious.
Curious.
Curious, yes. Okay, yeah. Sure, you're curious. Yeah.
I'm present.
You're present? Okay.
Eager.
Hmm?
Eager.
You're eager. Ah. So curious, eager, you're not just complacent about reality, you're actually kind of looking for something. Yeah? Okay. What else?
I'm lost.
You what?
Lost.
You're lost, okay. Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you're seeking the way, because you're lost. That's a big incentive for being a seeker of the way, to be lost, to be, yeah. Oh, wonderful, yeah. These are all valid. Yeah, what else? Hmm?
I came here.
You came here. You came to this retreat. Yes, yeah. Yeah, if you weren't the seeker of the way, if you weren't there for Shelley, you wouldn't have gotten her here, sitting in that chair right now. Yeah. Good. What else? What do you do?
Sometimes impatient.
You try to be patient?
Impatient.
Oh, you're impatient. You're impatient for finding the way.
Impatient to find it,
Uh-huh.
like wanting the way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Wanting sure.
Yeah. You're impatient to find the way. Yeah? Is that right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
I'm struggling for attention.
Hmm?
I'm struggling for attention.
You're struggling for attention. Say a little more.
I feel like I'm pushed away when I seek the way, when I am myself seeking the way,
Well, who am I speaking to?
seeking the way.
Who pushes you away?
Julie.
Okay, so Julie doesn't listen to you.
Not always.
Uh-huh, okay. All right, but who I'm speaking to is the seeker of the way, right?
Yes.
You don't push yourself away, but Julie does. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What else?
Determined.
Hmm?
Determined.
You're determined. Yes. Yes, you have to be, don't you? Otherwise, you wouldn't be seeking the way. Yeah.
I'm open.
You're open.
I may find something, and I don't know what I'm going to find, so I need to be open when I see it.
Uh-huh, so you don't prematurely close off some possibility.
Or think that, oh, that's not
That's
it,
it.
and judge it.
Okay, so, well, okay, so how do you know, let me ask you all this, how do you know if what you're looking for is valid and and justifies further, that camera is blurred for some reason, am I? Oh, there, now it is. If you're, how do you know if what you're finding is valid or not? As a seeker of the way. You're not, there's things you find that aren't worth pursuing with all your determination and your eagerness, aren't there? So, how do you know if what you're finding is true or not?
It makes sense.
Okay, makes sense to you. Mhm. How do you, what's that like when it makes sense to you?
Fits with my experience,
Uh-huh.
the knowledge.
Okay, so you're comparing it to life experiences and seeing, does it make sense? Is something off there?
Large enough to hold it.
So you're using some critical thinking then, aren't you? You have to actually, you can't just accept whatever you find, or you could, I guess, but that might not turn out so well, because maybe what you find is a cult. Maybe they ask you to drink Kool-Aid. How do you know the difference between a cult and something that is a valid way that you're looking for? How would you know? How do you know?
For me, I think it's different. For me, it's more, the seeker is more experiential.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I don't want to rely upon my past knowledge, because that past knowledge hasn't gotten me to where I hoped I would be. So I'm trying to get away from the thinker. I'm trying to get away from the intellectual. And Ken has been too reliant on the intellectual.
Wonderful. So it's not that you're seeking something to learn, it's almost like you're seeking is unlearning.
Yes,
Yeah.
for me it is, yes.
Yeah, I get it. That's good. Yeah, because you realize that a lot of what you have learned isn't helping you out too much.
Exactly.
So okay, that's really good. Yeah. What else?
I'm starting to own parts I didn't even know existed.
You're starting to own parts of yourself that you didn't know existed. Yeah. What's that like?
It's scary as hell.
Huh? Scary? Yeah.
It's scary.
Yes. Are you scared as a seeker of the way, or is Shelley scared that you're looking into things that she's not familiar with? As a seeker of the way, are you scared? Do you see what I'm asking?
Yeah. The self isn't scared.
Shelley isn't.
Shelley, the persona, yes, can be afraid. But when I feel more I have access to the self, it feeds back so I can stay.
As a seeker of the way, are you scared?
When I'm in line with the self, I am no longer afraid, but oftentimes there's dissonance and I'm not
I'm just
integrated.
asking you to be the seeker now, not Shelley. Kind of pull them apart a little bit more.
Yeah, the seeker can be afraid.
Okay. Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you have to be. You have to have some discernment as a seeker, right? It's not just you're not just giving Shelley to anything. You're not just giving yourself over to the people. Can be con artists. They can be all kinds of strange things on the internet, that conspiracy theories, all kinds of stuff. You actually, as the seeker of the way, have to exercise some kind of critical thinking, or some kind, maybe it's not thinking, maybe it's some discernment to be able to know that what you're finding is valid or not. And if you don't do that, then what you find could be harmful. It could be. So maybe there's some real intelligence in your fear, because you're looking into things that are new that you don't know about, and you have to actually kind of pay attention to see, is this going to be good or is it going to be bad? Yeah. Do you see? Not a walk in the park, being a seeker of the way. The way can come in many different forms. It could be delusion, it could be enlightenment, it could be more suffering, it could be a abusive relationship. You have responsibility as a seeker of the way then to look at what you're looking for and you know, compare it to your life experience. Does it work for me? Does this make sense? Is this trustworthy? This way I'm looking for, is this something I trust? And maybe it's hard to know, as the seeker of the way, if you can really trust what you're seeking. Yeah.
I think as the seeker, I feel sometimes left out and lonely, because in seeking, I am doing scary things for my other personas, and I note that. I note that I'm bringing change and potential change, that there are parts that I know make that very, very uncomfortable for Ken and for the other voices.
Oh, other voices, maybe other friends of Ken's that are used to Ken being this way, but you're looking over here.
And also that I may reject who I still think I am as I'm seeking. I'm trying to remain whole and not reject the status.
No, but now, don't conflate Ken and the seeker. I want you to really pull them apart. There's Ken, but
Yes.
who am I speaking to right now?
Now you're speaking to the seeker.
Okay, seeker of the way.
The seeker of the way, and it sometimes it's lonely.
As a seeker of the way, are you really concerned about what Ken thinks about what you're doing? What if Ken says, no, I don't, someone said, wasn't it you, Julie, says Julie doesn't listen to the seeker of the way, doesn't actually give her too much respect, thinks she's, you know, singing Kumbaya and hugging trees and stuff, and says, this is not trustworthy, this is not, get real, you know, my seeker of the way is out there, you know, looking for crystals and drinking herb tea and stuff. I was like, what? So yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable with that seeker of the way. But as a seeker of the way, are you uncomfortable with yourself? You're seeking the way. Isn't that your job? If I ask you what's your job description, and you're going to write it down, what would it be? My job description is what? Keep looking. And when you think you've found it, what's your job description?
Share it, Julie.
You should be really relieved, hopefully. That's good, yeah. Share it with Julie.
As the seeker,
Julie said if she's a seeker of the way and she finds something good, to share it with Julie herself. Yeah,
I also feel as the seeker of the way that I need some of the other selves.
somebody,
The other selves,
the other self.
Julie's other selves. I need a couple of them to walk with me as I seek.
Okay, so you're not confident you can do this by yourself, that you need some other help.
Yes, especially in the discernment.
In the what?
Discernment.
Okay, that's interesting. Yes, that might be a interesting, yes, okay, I get that. Maybe the critical thinker isn't the seeker of the way. Maybe that's another voice altogether that is really, kind of cynical, and whereas the seeker of the way might be more open to any possibility. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. Do you find the way as the seeker of the way? Do you find it? Do you ever find it in some kind of final answer? Sometimes. Then you'd be unemployed as the seeker of the, you'd lose your job. You'd no longer be employed. Yeah?
Right now, I, as the seeker, have been unemployed for a long time, and I'm getting back into the marketplace.
Yeah, okay.
I followed a very different path for very many years, and it's that re-empowerment is kind of scary, as Julie said, to the rest of the voices, the ones who are more comfortable with the status quo. So similar to Julie, I, as the seeker, am trying to find allies, internal allies.
Oh, okay. So what I hear you saying is, as seeker of the way, you're looking for things that are kind of outside the box of that Ken is used to, and so you need some allies to convince Ken to pay attention to you.
You
Find something.
And if my internal voices were in a war movie, my seeker has the ace of spades on the front of his helmet, walking point right into the scary shit. Okay? And nobody else really, they're glad it's not them, but they don't want to really be there anyway.
So you're the front man.
I'm the front man. Yes.
Okay, good. You're the front man that's willing to walk right into the line of fire.
Yes, and that can be really scary and lonely.
Really scary. Yeah, I get it. That's good.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, but
What?
I said that's a hard act to follow.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
No, just that my seeker, or I, as a seeker, it's a long journey, it's a long path, so I find it all the time, but then I'm just constantly refining it,
You're constantly looking,
and I find things,
and you find things.
yeah.
But as a seeker of the way, your job, you keep looking and finding more.
Yep.
Okay.
As the seeker of the way, I know that my seeker is just ego, and that unless I'm connected to self, which already knows the way,
Say that again.
that as seeker of the way, that's just another persona. That's just ego, and it's the connection to self, that access.
Well, now I hear a judgment of you as a seeker of the way.
It just is ego. It's just another persona. It's just ego.
Am I speaking to the seeker of the way now, or some other voice?
No, you're speaking to the seeker of the way.
And you're judging yourself as a persona?
No, it
Or you're
is
just saying you're a
persona.
persona?
It is persona until I have access to myself, which the seeker of the way, I need that ego. There's no judgment in
Oh,
ego.
I see.
I need that ego in order to become aware of
Okay.
the self's direction.
Okay, all right. Another role, another part of the self, another persona.
Well, a very important part.
Uh-huh, yes, Okay, Jackie, online?
Hi, Roshi, the seeker of the way needs to take the dog inside, so please excuse me for a minute. I'll be back, okay?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
She has to take the dog out.
What?
It said the
Oh.
seeker has to bring the dog inside. Yeah,
Okay,
but the seeker has to go do that.
okay.
Is it the seeker or somebody else?
Yeah, the one who walks the dog. That's the babysitter. Okay, so I'm going to ask you we're going to run out of time, so I'm going to ask you to come back to the center of your chair as yourself, and how was that, what we just did?
It was, the longer we went, the more I kind of re-envisioned myself or my seeker and just realized more the dimensions of that seeker. So it was helpful.
Okay. Julie, what do you think about the seeker there? It was.
I thought that asking us to be the seeker of the way was a pretty advanced form of thought beyond the pusher, or
Yes,
it's,
another leap.
it seems like a next level
Yeah,
to try to find that voice.
okay. Yeah. So, we can say in this work that we have voices that are owned or disowned or mature or immature without implying any kind of judgment about that. We have some voices that are more developed than others, some voices we're comfortable with, and some we're not. But that doesn't negate the reality of that voice of the seeker. You probably wouldn't be here right now if you didn't have the seeker of the way in you. Yeah? And if you had listened too much to your skepticism about it, you might not be here, right? You might say, oh, yeah, she wants to come to that retreat at the Zen Center. I haven't been there before. It could be a strange thing, you know. They're all wearing black and walking around like Zennies. And they're all formal and uptight. Yeah, right? You could. There's another voice, the skeptic. Very valid. We need a skeptic to be able to do critical thinking, so you know whether if something is trustworthy or not. And if it's not trustworthy, then the skeptic gets more active. Well, that's another whole other conversation. So, I'd like you to, I'd like you to shift your chair again. And I'd like to speak to the way. So I'll just sit here for a moment and let that sink in. Who am I speaking to? The way. Tell me about yourself.
I think I'm always there, even when the seeker doesn't find me. I am still there.
There, here,
Here, there, and
everywhere. Here, there, everywhere.
here, there, and everywhere. Yeah. So
Even if the seeker doesn't find you, you're still here.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
wisdom.
You have wisdom, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to convey to the seeker to trust the process.
You want to tell the seeker that they could relax a little bit because you're here,
Yeah.
and they don't have to work so hard to find you because you're
And
already here.
I'm here and I'll be there.
You'll be
I'll
here.
be here.
You're here and you'll be here. You're
Don't
not
have to
going
wo-
anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sort of a-
So
Dancing.
you don't come and go.
No.
Okay. Wow. What's that like to be the way that doesn't come and go? What's that like in your body? What's it like energetically before you think about it? Okay. Okay. Equanimity.
It's my heart beating me.
Your heart's beating?
My heart's beating me. I'm not,
Your heart's beating you.
yeah, my heart is breathing me.
Okay.
I don't need to like think about it. It just is. I
Yeah.
am it. It's me.
Okay. Yeah, you're already here. You don't need to think about yourself. It's obvious. You're here. Your heart, you said your heart is beating you. That's a lovely way to put it. Julie?
I'm peaceful.
You're peaceful. Yeah. Now, hang on, don't pass the mic. Please. So, now I want you to kind of look across and look at the one who seeks the way, and what's different for you now as being the way, energetically? What do you see when you look over to that one who seeks the way? What do you see in that person, that one?
A childlike person.
Huh?
Childlike person.
Childlike person, okay. You want to say more?
The seeker is open. The seeker is open. And just
What's
as
changed now that you're the way? What's
Yes.
changed?
there is no time,
No time. Okay, now I want you to kind of take that in. What's that like to be here right now and there'd be no time, no reference to time? So you are eternal?
yes.
Can you actually take that in right now, all of you? That might be challenging. I've got time right over here. You don't. You're timeless.
Yes.
Whoa. I can see Jackie looking. How big are you? As the way. What shape are you? What color are you? What? I'm guessing there's some skeptics showing up here that are wondering about this whole thing, saying, I don't know about this. The way, timeless, come on, let's get real. I'm still sitting in this chair. I can feel my butt on the chair, and I can look over here, and I got time right here on my cell phone. Let's get real here. Timelessness. Is this hard? Is this hard to, I'm just inviting you to use your imagination to be here for a moment. You just have an opportunity to be fully awake and enlightened just for a moment. Why not take it? You can go back to your time things and your cell phones and, you know, when we're done with the exercise. But for the moment, just open to the possibility that you are the way. And what would that be like if you were?
For me, I feel like I'm the block of granite that Michelangelo chipped away to make David. It'll get there, okay? I'm in there, okay? Also, in March, I drove from Las Vegas to Elko, Nevada, going through the Great Basin. It was moo. It was everything and nothing all at the same time. That's what it feels like to me.
That's what you feel like right now?
As the way.
Everything and nothing.
I am empty, and the entire universe is within that emptiness. It's
You have no quality. Is there a quality you can identify as the way that you actually are? Something that would qualify you as the way?
I would say whatever Ken said would say yes and. Okay? Yes, that's part of it.
Talk about yourself as the way.
I am everything and nothing.
I mean, words are kind of inadequate.
That's Zen.
What's it like energetically before you speak as you sit here as the way? Jack is going.
Vibrating. Vibrating energy.
Vibrating. How big are you? Do you have a size? The self has a size. Some of us are short, some of us are tall, some of us are fat, some of us are skinny, some of us are slow talkers, some of us are fast talkers, some of us are men, some of us are women, some of us have hair, some of us don't. What size are you as the way? Do you have a quality that can you measure yourself as the way? Do you have a measurement? Do you have a weight? Can you actually take this in experientially, what it is like to be here right now and not have a measurement? The seeker of the way could measure all kinds of things, right? The duration, the time that it takes for you to find the way, your determination.
How the seeker describes me doesn't change me. I'm beyond, right.
Right.
It's like, okay, you got a piece of it, keep going. Perfect, now improve.
Yeah. Are you good or bad? Is there any duality in you? Right and wrong? Oh, what's it like to be here and be like that, like this? I'm guessing it's a little strange for some of you, and maybe unfamiliar. Maybe you didn't think this is possible. Maybe the seeker of the way is more at the front and saying, no, I don't want to find the way, then I would be out of a job. There'd be no fun being the way, then there'd be nothing to look for anymore.
Speaking as the way,
Yeah.
I am ineffable. I am what Ken used to call God.
Yeah. Yeah, some people call you God. Boy, that sounds sacrilegious to say I'm God.
Now I sound like John Lennon.
A lot of religions would, put you to the stake for saying that. Better be careful where you say this. Okay, so let's come back to yourself. What was that like? Now you can be yourself with a familiar person that weighs something and has hair and has thoughts and opinions and what, Jackie?
I'm having a really hard time finding words, like, and I'm a teacher and I use wait time. I use wait time in my classes. I ask a question and I wait, and students get so uncomfortable with the pause, but I had nothing to say. But it wasn't that I wasn't thinking, I was just so deep in thought, and
No words for it.
yeah. I have a question. Is my way the same as everyone else's way? Is there one way?
Is there a my?
Is there a one
is
way?
there a- well, that's a really interesting question. Is there a my in the way? As the way, is there a, are you possessing your way as different from someone? Is there some other way?
Is it my way and your way, or is it just the way?
Are there different ways? That's a really interesting question.
Okay, I'm getting,
As the way, did you experience that there could be another way other than yourself? As the way? Well, when you were the way, did it feel like there was some boundary that you reached that where there was another way?
I felt like the way is a parallax, okay? The only way to define the way is through our own Ken or Jackie's perception. So the only difference is how we perceive based upon
Each of us has
Each
our
of us-
personal proclivities that still color the
So-
way that we are.
yes.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so we're running out of time, so I'm gonna do one more piece of this. We're gonna build a triangle now. What we've done right now is we've spoken to two parts of our experience that are really, really important in Zen. One side is what we call the relative. In the relative world, we live in a world of differences, personalities, roles, good and bad, right and wrong, morals matter, how we behave. In the relative world, we go to work, we take the kids to school, we have to make a living, we have to function. Maybe one of the resistances to this spiritual stuff is it seems kind of like, you know, come on, I got to go to work tomorrow. You know, you're talking about the way, you know, come on, get real, come back down to earth. So we're kind of in this is where we live, in the relative world. We're pretty familiar with this world. We all live in this world. And Zen is inviting us into the other experience as well, which is, we could call it oneness, sameness, no difference, the absolute. We have many names for it, but it can't be named. Nor can we know it, because there's nobody to know it, you see? And Zen is inviting us to see that this is who we are. This is who we are. We're both. And we're just not familiar with this. And we may not trust this either, because this is kind of unfamiliar. It's kind of gigantic. It's bigger than gigantic. It's beyond words. So it's hard to trust. We can't know it the way we know things here. We know all kinds of stuff verbally, and this is not a concept. Although talking about it, I'm making it into a concept, but it's not. So hard to trust. So we have these two sides in our human experience, as Zen talks about all the time, the differences and the sameness. Now, what's important here to get is in a mystical tradition, it would be easy to imagine that what's most important is this one over here, the Godhead, the oneness with God. I'm seeking that, I found it, and you had a wonderful, blissful experience. I've made it, you know, that's the goal. And then you say, well, this is like This is the physical world. This is the spirit. This is the material world. This is stained. This is sin. This is, yep, yeah, I'm exaggerating, but you get the point that you could be biased for this against this, and that would be very dualistic. That would mean that you embrace some kind of spiritual experience that doesn't have to do with the suffering in the world that we actually experience, that there's real suffering here. There's people that get hurt. There's injustice. There are people that are hungry. There are people that are poor. There are people that are depressed. And here you don't have to deal with that. This is pretty nice. And when people have this experience in Zen, it's very nice, because for a moment when you're here, there's none of this matters, seemingly. But, so Zen is a non-dualistic spiritual tradition, so this matters too. So then how are we going to have both? That's the paradox. How can you be both places at once? So we're going to do that now. I'm going to finish this by building a triangle, and we're going to have a third place we're going to go. We're going to, it doesn't matter what we call it, we call it the apex. And at the apex, you are both of these, okay? I want you to just shift your chair briefly. I want to speak to the apex. Just sit with this for a moment and don't try to, what comes up as being the apex, where you have access to both of these, the oneness and the difference, the wholeness and the parts, the absolute and the relative. Who am I speaking to?
Yes.
Tell me about yourself. We're traveling a big distance, right? We already went pretty far to get here. Now we're even going further. Anybody? Yeah.
I'm the third. I'm the transcendent.
I'm the third. I'm the transcendent function.
You're the,
Transcendent function.
you're transcendent, okay?
Function, yes.
Function. You function here.
Yeah, so you
That's
take,
interesting, yeah.
there's two sides. It creates the third, and it's the other way that isn't this or that. It's beyond. It's both and all.
Okay, so something here you function, here you didn't really function. Here you function, but you kind of get caught in the activity. So here you're able to function in some different way?
It's the third way, yeah.
Okay, good, yeah. Anybody?
Kind of building off what Shelley said, I'm the yin and the yang, I'm Dionysian, I am good and bad together, I am everything and nothing, and
So what's changed? Now that you're here, how are you different than Big Mind over here, the oneness? What's different than how are you different than the way?
it's hard for a way to hold a job. Okay? At the apex, you can hold a job and still have spiritual transcendence.
Okay, good. So at the apex, you can function here and go to work and not get fired, and you can do it pretty well. But then what's different here than the one who's seeking the way, the relative side? What's changed now that you're at the apex? What's different in you? You can function, but how is that functioning different than, is it the same as here? Clearly not.
It's reconciliation, I think. It's taking the action and putting it into a bigger context.
Okay, you have a bigger context here, because here you couldn't really see the forest through the trees. You're kind of here, dealing with the way, you're looking for the way, and here it's bigger, and now here you have both. Yes. So you can function, but you have a bigger view. So the way that you function may be more skillful or something than up here than here. Do you see that? You're looking skeptical there. Yeah, trying to take it in, right? Yeah, This is a big journey we're taking here in a very short time.
Speaking as the apex, everything just fits together and makes sense, and all of the things in the relative make complete sense.
Everything makes sense. Everything fits together. We have a sutra that we chant, that second sutra, the relative and the absolute, fits together like a box and a lid. These two are married. Up here, they're married.
Two arrows leading in.
Yeah, you have them both. Now, if you think about it, it says that's not possible. You know, none of this is possible if we think about it. Our Zen tradition this is what we're inviting you to clarify in your life, that you could actually access all of these in yourself as transpersonal voices, transpersonal selves that are part of you. And Zen has been saying this for thousands of years, that when we speak of your true self, your Buddha nature, we usually talk about this here. The way, you are the way. As the way, you are Buddha. You are fully awake. You can't lose this. You can't gain it. You don't have more, you're not more the way because you're here at this retreat, although you might be more open to acknowledging that you are the way. You can't lose it. Yeah, Blair. Yeah.
If you're seeking the ultimate truth,
That's seeker of the way.
seeker of the way,
Yeah.
why is the apex not what's sought?
Why is the apex not
Not the thing or the quality,
that you're looking for?
yeah. I mean, isn't that?
Well, that's a good question, actually. So what you're saying is, why do you go this way, and why couldn't you just seek the apex? The reason is because the apex includes both the seeker of the way and the way. And as a seeker of the way, there's no way to get to the apex until you've found that you are the way. I'm not as clear. It's like, what? So if you couldn't find the apex, because the apex has to include both of these. Yeah? Do you see what I'm saying?
Kind of, yeah, I mean, it's my, yeah, I mean.
It's all right to,
kinda-
it's all right just to
yeah.
kind of let this kind of settle in you. Might be helpful to try to find the embodied energy.
And the Zen
All of
is,
this is Zen. This is
all of it is,
the triangle is Zen. It's the full Monty Python. Jackie?
The apex is kind of where my compassion comes in.
Yeah.
And like allows the relative errors and the judgment and the kind of the softening, and kind of humbles my interpretation of the way, of the part of me that's the way. So I feel like the apex it's forgiving, and it's
Yeah.
kind. It's just it's kind, and it's generous, and it's compassionate.
Yeah. Yes.
is it love?
Love. Yeah. We absolutely, yes. Because the way doesn't particularly have it includes everything on emotions, but it's not an emotion, it's not compassionate. It doesn't care whether everything's here, including suffering. So it doesn't particularly suffer. Here we suffer. The seekers of the way, the relative world, we're suffering all the time. And when we have both of them, now there's a possibility that you could function better being here than here. And when you look down from here, you could feel some compassion for how hard it is for you as a seeker of the way and never finding the way, how frustrating that could be. And the blind alleys you go down and the time you waste looking for something that, so you can have some compassion for this, whereas the way doesn't particularly have any feeling about, the way is just peaceful. I mean, the way is like just being, whereas over here you're kind of busy. So the apex really brings in what we might call the bodhisattva vow. Yeah? That you start to, when you have both of these and you can be here, when you put these two together, you are at the apex. And you're starting to see how unnecessary the suffering is that you go through and other people go through, and you feel some real genuine sorrow for the enormous suffering taking place here. And then you naturally, seeing that, develop some kind of aspiration to what can you do to heal it? What can you do? Well, you have some tools now. You're not stuck here. You have this too. This is enormous. This makes all the difference in the world. Being the way, now how can you help seekers of the way? Find what you found. How can you help them be released from suffering? And that is the Bodhisattva vow. And that is really the key to our Zen path, is living by vow. And then when you're here, that's what we were saying the other day, your own, what the Buddha discovered, your own personal, what we're so preoccupied, our neurosis, all that stuff, up here, it's not so big anymore. It's still there, but it's not something that you worry about so much. You don't take it so personally. Okay? We've run out of time. We actually, even though we're talking about timelessness and eternity, we have to have lunch. So we're not just here, we're also here, and we're following a schedule. So that's Zen too. Just because we're here doesn't mean we don't have to deal with it. Yeah, up here. Okay, so I hope this was helpful or sparked your curiosity, but I find it a very helpful pointing out technique, and I think it's valuable to do it more than once and to kind of let it sink in. And then if you go and look at sutras, you can actually see that the sutras are talking about these three things all the time in one way or another. But you get this way experientially, and it's big. So it's a pointing out technique. So if you can see it, if you can get an intuition of it, then it's up to you to integrate it through your own practice and really make it find more confidence in it. And you have to test it out to see. It may not be, you may find it's totally bogus. Maybe I'm just a con artist up here pulling the wool over your eyes, and you say, hey, that Roshi is like, he's a little screwy. He's talking about the apex. What the hell is he talking about? And you say, so you say no. Or you say, yeah, there's something to that. And then you read a sutra and you say, yeah, that sutra's actually, the Heart Sutra, it's actually emptiness. Yeah, I can see that. Because you kind of get it experientially, and that's the point. We're not talking about just philosophy. We're not just talking about beliefs. We're talking about life, the life we're living. And Zen is inviting you, imploring you to embrace the fullness of who you are, which is all of this, the full Monty Python. Okay.
Thank you, Roshi.
Okay. See you later.
Prepare for lunch.